I would say there's a majority of votes for split between red and blue and a handful for the other ones. So here's why this kind of question is tricky to answer. My claim is that the right answer for this one is that you can't tell without additional information. And the reason is that the quantity of interest here, Armando's perception of Rotten Potatoes availability, doesn't say anything about what my usage pattern is. If I was a Rotten Potatoes addict and I was sitting on the site, hitting it every few seconds, pretty much 24 hours a day, every day of the week, besides the fact that I would obviously have no life whatsoever, you could make an argument that there's a relationship between my perception of the availability and the worst case of availability of the other three things, right? Because all of these three, all three elements have to be available in order for me to use the app, right? I have to have a connection, Heroku has to be up and running properly, and my app on Heroku also has to be up and running properly. So in the scenario where I'm using it all the time, you could make a case that if you flip this to be less than or equal to, you could make a case for green. What about the other ones? Well, there's no particular assertion, what's the relationship between my internet connection availability, which is usually due to a provider like Comcast or AT&T or whoever, versus the availability of Heroku or Rotten Potatoes. There's not really any strong statement you can make either way, right? Comcast has good days and bad days. I can tell you that from personal experience. So other than saying that if I was using it constantly, that I would experience something that's related to the minimum availability of all three, but if you don't know how I'm using it, all you can really say is you can't tell without additional information. If I happen to use it only a few times a day and it happens to be up at those times, my perception of its availability may be very good, even though for many other users who are trying to get at it, their perception of its availability may be something totally different. So as we'll see, a lot of the measurements of things like availability and responsiveness, you have to be clear about who you're measuring with respect to, what's the quantity of interest, how you're going to aggregate the information, and also especially over what timescales you measure it. So this is, we're setting the stage for discussion that some of these, even the ones that seem like they ought to be obvious to measure, are a little bit more subtle.